Hello, this is True to Life Politics. I'm Brian Williamson,
And I'm Justin Williamson.
and we are True to Life Politics, where we're going to be discussing the most major headlines in the news
And how they matter to you.
from a conservative perspective.
All right, so let's get started. So, the first headline that's been making major news, and this is a big one, but it recently passed yesterday. Actually, was it 2 days ago? I think it was 2 days ago, right?
It was 2 days ago, yeah, on
Um,
Friday.
so it was a very controversial bill regarding the government shutdown.
Well, it was actually the spending bill that would have
Yeah.
funded the government.
Yeah, but it was regarding like if the government would shut down at all.
Absolutely. If they didn't, so what it is if the bill that they were voting on, if they did not vote on it, if and all the Republicans were going to vote on it, but if at least 8 or 9 Democrats did not come along, then it would have shut the government down. Uh, People that work for the government would not have get paid. Vital services would not have functioned. But it passed with the support of ultimately Chuck Schumer, which is the minority leader of the Senate, put the bill forward. 8 Democrats came forward and said that they would support it. Ultimately, 10, I should say, and to bring it to 60 votes. Then the government was fully funded.
So you might be asking, don't Republicans have a majority? Couldn't they get whatever they want passed? And I'll explain why that's might not necessarily be the case in all situations. See, in the House of Representatives, a bill can get passed easily with a simple majority. All there is 40 minutes of debate on a bill before it's voted on. But in the Senate, there's this thing called the filibuster, which means that the Senate can essentially keep talking about the bill as long as they want to, but you need 60 votes to beat a filibuster, which is something that the Republicans cannot do alone, and they need at least 7 Democrats to agree with them to get the legislation passed. So this is a very controversial topic because for Democrats, they could pass the bill, but it's not something that really aligns with their party platform. They wanted to work on a shorter resolution that lasted less time, but at the same time, it would look very bad for them if they didn't pass it because I mean the government needs to run. There are all these employees who aren't going to get paid, yet they are, so it's a bad look for them. So it's a very controversial topic, essentially.
And ultimately, it's about going against what President Trump is doing in this second term that he's taken on. Um, Everything that they would, what the Democrats would like to do is, at this point, they're in the minority party, and it's about obstruction. So if they can obstruct the budget process, they can have an upper hand when really it's not about that. It's about really what the priorities of the American people are.
Yeah, but basically, it did ultimately pass. 10 Democrats decided to vote yes because of Chuck Schumer. Basically, decided it's
He folded
he folded
to the pressure.
because it's just such a controversial thing for Democrats, and then you have other you have the moderate Democrat Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, who's um, they really don't have an alternate plan if they were to filibuster the bill. So ultimately, they got the support of 10 Democrats, and the filibuster was able to be beaten.
Yeah, it's if you don't support it, it's ultimately going to look like you don't care about people. at all in their well-being, which the number of government employees don't make up a significant amount of the economy, enough of the economy to make a huge dent or a huge difference. Now, the media will tell you differently, but it really truly doesn't. But there are other. It can, because there are other industries that feed in that have government contracts, and without the functioning government, the contracts can't move forward. So
Yeah. Well, I think we've explained this headline pretty well. Should we move on
yeah,
to what's next?
let's move on to Trump and the economy. Um, there was an MSNBC opinion piece that came out that talks about Trump and the economy and what they're looking to do. And the headline for the piece is "What Trump and Republicans Won't Admit About the Economy." And the first line says, "The warning lights of a coming recession are blinking faster, and you can almost feel the panic from the White House." Well, I mean, this comes from our liberals friends at MSNBC. Some of the
So
things,
biased.
yeah, exactly. Some of the things that really stick out with this crazy piece that came out. Um, it says even President Trump, who has built a career on projecting unearned confidence, is showing cracks. During a Fox News interview this weekend with host Maria Bartiromo, she,
Bartiromo.
she asked him whether he expects a recession this year. President Trump paused, taking an uncharacteristic level of care with his words. "I hate to predict things like that," he said. "There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big." Now, granted, yes, all the things that they're looking to do are big, and it's going to take time to really settle in and get a hold on it. And the markets may react kind of negatively toward that, but ultimately the the groundwork is being laid for a very successful 4 years that we're about to come into. Um,
Yeah, it's like uh, all these liberal sources are just like trying to shoot down like that Elon Musk is like he's a corrupt billionaire, with DOGE, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But they're they're criticizing all these economic choices Trump is making, but let's look back to Biden's term. Like, what did he really do with the economy? I mean, record high gas prices, the egg price, like the what is it, the bird flu, or I think that's what it
yeah,
is.
the bird flu actually started on
It's
Biden's term.
started under the Biden Harris administration. It's not even Trump's fault. Most of the stock crash isn't even his fault. The market's going to might go down for a little bit because whenever there's change, the market will be affected, but it will go back up under these. And I'm not an economist, but
Well,
whenever there's change, the market has to adjust to.
exactly. Like I've said, we're still living in a Biden economy, even though Trump did take over as the president of the United States and is the president, but he and his policies haven't fully kicked in, and we haven't realized them quite yet. It's going to take a period of months before, and even maybe a year, or it could take two, before we really start feeling the real effects of the true Trump presidency and his economic outlook, cutting taxes for the middle class, keeping the 2017 tax cuts in place fully, which the budget, by the way, the budget reconciliation that they just passed, the budget did uh, uh, laid the groundwork for that. And secondly, the tariffs, which we will talk about, that he's imposing on goods coming from Mexico, uh, China, and Canada, are going to bring in manufacturing and goods and services to be brought back to the United States where it really should be in the first place. So we're getting ready to come into a very big prosperous time here in this country.
Yeah, but it's like really it's not fair to judge Donald Trump and like nitpick what he's doing because he's only been in there for like less than 3 months and he's just starting to get these policies in. Um he's got like all these tariffs coming in what he said on April 2nd. Um they're not even like fully in effect, but they're like I don't know if people realize how reliant we are on China for all these things. All these like we've got products coming in, we've got um we and other countries in general, but China is the biggest offender. It's like and we got to get all this stuff out of China. We want to be more reliant, but we can't be when we're relying on other countries to do all this for us. And the tariffs are going to help cuz they just cost they're not convenient for these companies to be paying. So it's easier for them to just come back to the US and we already see who is that? That's bringing their that's what car company is it that's bringing their production to Indiana? Is that Honda?
Honda, they're
Okay.
going to build a very big manufacturing plant in the state of Indiana. And that will bring in at least probably 20 to 30,000 jobs. I believe that was the estimate.
Yeah, and we also see, do you want to go to the next headline? We have Trump and the Canadian tariffs.
Yeah, so Trump and the Canadian tariffs. So so basically, with the tariff situation, and by the way, when we talk about tariffs, a tariff is essentially a tax on goods coming into the country. When you, in other words, when you produce a product and you ship it to another country, you will have to pay a tariff on that product going to that country, in addition to the fees to ship it there and any additional taxes. It's basically another tax on top of a tax. So we're taxing those products that are coming in. And the argument there is if we, tax products on goods coming into from Canada, Mexico, and China, then we're going to have to raise prices on those products. Well, that might be the case, but companies that are doing a lot of importing are going to eventually realize, they're going to have to start changing the way that they purchase and the way that they buy. So they're going to start looking to more domestic sources for their products.
And what that'll do is once they start moving all these in, prices will go back down because, they're already based there. It's going to be easier to make products within the US. So prices might even go down further than what they already are now. But the US just doesn't have the resources because these companies aren't motivated to move production to the US for all these things.
There has been a significant pushback, though, by especially Canada. In fact, Canada earlier this week, they
They brought
threatened,
in their new prime minister
right?
too, Mark Carney.
They also threatened to levy a surcharge on electricity to three U.S. states. Um, and then in retaliation to that, President Trump threatened to double the tariffs he had already placed on Canadian goods. So there's been this thing called the trade war really is on, but it's really President Trump standing up for what's been going on for so many years. See, for so many years, uh, countries have been importing to us, and they they've been their tariffs on goods that we receive has been almost double in some cases. We pay double of tariffs on some products, whereas and we don't when we export or we export to them, we don't pay as many we don't force them to pay as many tariffs on their products that go out to them. So it's nothing more, if nothing more than President Trump is trying to level the playing field in the way that we are selling products and exchanging goods with other countries. And it's good for our nation in the long run. The short run, it may be tough because the economy, as I've told you before, Justin, doesn't move on a dime. It takes a while for things to move and to turn around.
Yeah, Canada would definitely be better off as the 51st state. I honestly, I don't even know what they're doing up there. It's like they're just
Well, I honestly have mixed feelings about it because
and
most
it would make like the government slightly more liberal because you do have
exactly, I was
you're
just going to say
basically going to
that.
get two Democrat senators and oh my goodness,
And
how many uh, I think they'd have probably more representatives than California.
well, in total, Canada's population is about 40 million.
Yeah,
So
that's a little more than California, I
yeah,
think.
it's about the size of California, but they've got huge mass land space and they've got a lot of natural
Yeah, they
resources.
got so it could be a good thing, but at the same time,
Politically,
the
it could
House of
be a bad thing.
Representatives will forever be a Democrat
Yeah,
asylum, essentially.
exactly. So there's pros and cons to it, and um, if you look in the short run, uh, yeah, we they would have a lot of land mass. They would have a lot of good and a lot of riches to share with us, but at the same time, they may they may hurt us in the long run by pushing us down an even further liberal path by locking those votes in and keeping that uh in in intact. Basically any conservative or any Republican trying to run for higher office would be turned away because of that extra vote uh,
It's
going out.
yeah, it'd be a mess politically because the U.S. is pretty evenly divided politically. I mean, we've got like all these elections, like presidential elections, are fairly close. It's but that would like really that would hurt the Republican Party to have them to
and
join the U.S.
and we can't forget the fact that we do have local elections coming up too, which I think Democrats see inroads in those because it's kind of like the anger that is swelling from the 2024 loss that their defeat. They're trying to get a foothold into the local sector and can't let the local get out of sight.
Make sure to go vote in these elections because
Yes.
these are the ones nobody
Agreed.
goes to. Like we've got one coming up around here. This is it like April 1st or April 2nd?
Yes,
Um,
it's April 1st.
and it's like nobody goes and votes at these. You gotta go vote. It's not just every 4 years. It's important to go every time there's an election because that's when they sneak in the legislation that's like really impactful. They put like the small little things in the general elections, the things that might affect your taxes a little bit, but then they put the major stuff in the ones that nobody goes to at all. So it's make sure you go and vote and find out when your elections are and go vote.
Well, the most important thing is before you go to vote to find out who's on the ballot and if they are for common sense, conservative core principles of lower taxes, less government, uh, things that are going to be impactful and wise uh, for your local area and its local interests.
So while we're on the topic of less government, our next headline, the United States Postal Service signs an agreement with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. They agreed to cut 10,000 workers. So basically, if you don't know, but it's been at like the top of the headlines for the past few weeks. President Trump signed into existence a new agency essentially that it's headed by Elon Musk, and he's just going in and finding all these unnecessary things in governments that there are, and Democrats have really hated that idea because they're for big government, which it's not really helping us economically in any way. Uh, they're just spending money for no reason.
Well, let's face it, when it comes to the US Postal Service, when's the last time that you mailed a letter out or sent a bill out? For years, I've been personally, for our household, have been paying bills electronically, uh, therefore necessitating, that I don't need to use the postal service. I think the last time I sent my mortgage bill out was probably 7 or 8 years ago in the mail, and I just don't do it anymore.
There's this new service. Well, it's actually been around for a while. It's called email. It works just as well. We've got text messages. Uh, Electronic communication is very good. They've gotten it pretty secure too. It's not like it just appeared out of nowhere. I don't really. I mean, for some things, yeah, the post office is good, but I mean, do you really like small packages you might send through there, but you don't even send like packages through the post office as
And
much.
most people have, and most major banks have some sort of bill pay service that you can get with your online banking to pay your bills that way. So
It's a lot more efficient, it's faster.
absolutely, and it takes right out of your bank account immediately, and you don't have to wait for the checks to clear. And in fact, we barely ever write a check in our household.
That makes it
So,
harder to budget when you
and so this kind of goes along with the term, the why the United States Postal Service should really be almost privatized in a way, and
I
I would agree with that.
I think it should honestly.
Yes, it would cut a lot off of our government.
It should be completely funded by postage. Like you, I don't I don't understand exactly why it needs to be part of the government because I mean you pay postage. I, if tax dollars are really going there, there's something wrong. You should just like you're paying your postage. It what stamps keep going up. They're like 60 something cents now. Um like if you're paying for postage, you're paying to ship packages. Why are tax dollars going to the postal service? But this is just a
Agreed.
small topic of what Doge is doing. It's like you go to doge.gov, it's like you see all these things one after another that they're cutting, and I just find it so weird that Democrats hate the idea of it, and they're using Elon Musk as an excuse. He's not even taking a paycheck from Doge, but at the same
He's
time,
already the most rich
like,
richest person in
yeah,
the world, so why would he
why
need to take a paycheck?
yeah, if anything, he's more qualified. Somebody else, like if you get somebody who's not as rich in there, and they might be tempted to take some from their self from 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 these savings, but why would Elon Musk?
or
He
or,
doesn't.
or at least turn a blind eye to some of the things that would be uncovered when you can really expose those things. And it's about getting waste out of our government. For too long, for years, we've had all of this waste. We've had, we're finding people on social security rolls that are, 125, 130, 150 years old, and it's uh we all know that they're still not alive and they're getting a paycheck. Somebody's getting those paychecks. We don't know who that might be. So we think it's probably more than likely somebody's on the take at that point. So that can be the only reasonable conclusion, as as well as some of these contracts that are unnecessary and that they're canceling.
So I have another opinion article from MSNBC, the most liberal network.
We sure love that.
Um, so this one's called Opinion. It sure sounds like Elon Musk is coming for Social Security. The baseless claims about waste, fraud, and abuse are being made for a reason. So basically, this article is saying it. I'll read part of it, but it says Elon Musk thinks he's found a foolproof get rich scheme. He's described it in interviews, and all you need is to get a fake social security number and files a 300-year-old person, and the money will come rolling in. But don't be fooled. It's not that easy. The only scheme is here is Musk's, and the only people who will get richer are him and President Donald Trump. I just find this so ironic that they would even suggest that because why do they need money? They don't need money. They don't want money. They're I mean Elon Musk, he's he's got like all this wealth that's already coming in. I mean, he's got so many IPs
His net worth, I looked it
attached to
up.
his name.
I looked it up the other day. His net worth, I believe it was $380 billion.
That's like
He's at the top.
even if you tried, you could not spend all that. Like why do you think he needs like a few more $1 million? He doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, Elon Musk was one of these uh, people that really surprised me in a lot of ways. Um, Back 2, 3 years ago, he started talking about, against some of the things that were being done by the Biden administration and that were being done in government. And, I thought, okay, he's got a potential to be a real ally, but when President Trump got the assassination attempt happened to him in Butler, Pennsylvania, and Elon Musk came right out and said, "I advocate and endorse President Trump." I it, it surprised me a lot. But come to find out, he was going to endorse him anyway because of what his strong stance on the economy and his view that government is filled with waste and corruption and all these vices that need to be gotten rid of so that we can make our country great again. So I think he's surprised me a lot, and I fully approve of the work he's doing.
Yeah, and it goes along with this idea like it's almost cool to endorse Trump. Like it wasn't like that in 2016 and 2020, but like you've got some of these influencers who publicly endorse Trump. I think Elon is the type who jumps on the bandwagon and he's like all for it if everybody else is all for it. But he's a very intelligent person. I mean, there's a reason he's the richest man in the world. He didn't inherit all that. He earned that himself, and he earned that because he's a wise man who knows what he's doing.
Right, exactly. He's got a brilliant technical mind, and he's built his companies around that to bring products to market and services to market, and even people into space to better the lot of humankind.
I think that's the one thing that I disagree with him on because he wants to go to Mars so bad. I still try to figure out like why he wants to go there so bad, but
That I
that's
think is a
beside.
long shot in my opinion because there's a lot going against going to Mars. First of all, what vested interest do we have to
It's
go there?
it's like it's just a really cold, depressing desert. Essentially,
It's
it's not a pretty place.
in our galaxy, it's probably the planet that has the most closest atmosphere, closest uh planet to Earth, but it's not like Earth, and it's forbidding in a lot of ways. But
It's a very cold place. It's
we'll find out where that will go in due time.
But I think that's all of our headlines.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
we've discussed everything.
we've gone a long way here in talking about some of these major things that President Trump is doing and the Democrats and their arguments against it. Um, Folks, we'll be getting some more headlines and gathering more in as time goes by. So stay tuned for our next episode of True to Life Politics with Brian Williamson.
And Justin Williamson.
Signing off. Thank you very much.